About a year ago, Acura announced the return of the coveted Integra name, and a lot of enthusiasts gasped because we hadn't seen this beloved nameplate in America for over 20 years. Now, when the company finally took the wraps off the full production version, enthusiasts gasped once again because it wasn't a two-door and it had a profile that resembled an Accord Crosstour. Now, of course, the auto industry was very different 20 years ago versus what it is today, and the Integra has had to change to meet that demand, which is why the full production Integra looks exactly like this. I've already had a chance to drive this vehicle on my brief first drive out in Austin, Texas, back in May of 2022. But as you can see, this week, Acura has loaned me to spend a little bit more time with this 2023 Integra A-spec equipped with the 6-speed manual transmission. It's built off of the current generation Civic Si platform, which means we have the first ever turbocharged Integra paired with a slick shifting 6-speed manual with a limited slip differential, putting the power to the front wheels. So if you guys have been keeping an eye on the new Integra and you think you're ready to pull the trigger on one of these vehicles, the big question I want answered, is the new Integra truly worthy of its coveted name? Stay tuned to find out. Now, being absent from the market for over 20 years is a pretty long time, so I'm gonna first start the walk around by showing you guys what's underneath the hood. Now, Integras have always been kind of guzzied up versions of the Honda Civic. They've also had a variation of the Civic power plant, and in this case, for the new version, it takes the heart out of the current generation Civic Si. Which makes this Integra the first ever turbocharged Integra. It's equipped with the same 1.5 liter turbocharged double overhead cam VTEC 4-cylinder engine out of the Civic Si. It makes a nice even 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. It's got a single twin scroll turbo that's pushing in nearly 18 PSI of boost pressure. So that's a pretty good amount of boost, but again, it still leaves room for the aftermarket to come in to do a Honda tune or something to up the boost pressure to give you more power. A lot of people have been testing this engine, and it typically does a little over 200 horsepower at the wheels. So it's a very good possibility that Honda and Acura are severely underrating this engine, but regardless, it makes the same horsepower as the Si, which is technically 5 less horsepower versus the previous generation Si. It goes through either a standard continuously variable automatic, which I had a chance to drive when I was out in Texas, wasn't that impressed with it. This one here has the 6-speed manual equipped with the limited slip differential. It's a mechanical limited slip differential. All Integras continue to be front wheel drive. Sadly, there is no all wheel drive version available, and fuel economy is rated at 26 in the city, 36 on the highway, 30 combined. Premium is recommended for performance, but you could probably get away with using regular in this car. It has roughly a 12.4 gallon gas tank, so you're looking at around 350 miles between fill-ups. Now, the Integra is about 100 pounds heavier versus the Si. It has a top speed of around 135 miles an hour, and Acura doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time, but I got around 7 seconds in the Si, so we'll go ahead and we'll retest that in the slightly heavier Integra without the summer tires and see how it does. As this one sits, it weighs in at just over 3,000 pounds. Now, closing the hood, which had a prop rod, which is kind of annoying to see on a luxury vehicle, you can see this platinum white pearl of my tester is around $500 extra. And the Integra definitely has a unique design to it, although some of you may end up confusing this vehicle with a TLX. That's kind of the problem with Acura's current design theme, is the front end of their vehicles all look pretty similar. However, they have done a great job with making their cars look a lot more premium and upscale and a little bit more distinctive without being offensive like in the previous generation Acura models. You can see the diamond pentagon grille. This is the first Acura to have the frameless diamond pentagon. The A-spec model includes kind of this like black, piano black finish with the big Acura logo. It's got parking sensors in the front of the vehicle. You can see the headlights. They are full LEDs with the signature jewel eye LED with the chicane design. You can see it's got an LED daytime running light and turn signal, LED fog lights that's included with the A-spec package. And you can see functional air intakes to allow for cooling for the engine. I like the black front splitter that you get on the A-spec model. And then just like the old Integras, you can see it stamps Integra on the actual bumper on both of the front and rear bumpers to kind of play an homage to the previous generation. That's really your only indication this shares any lineage with the older Integras. A lot of enthusiasts complain about that, but again, this car has been absent from the lineup for over 20 years, so it's not going to really look all that similar anyways. But I will say it's a nicely proportioned car, and it doesn't really attract that many looks out on the road until people see the Integra badge. Now, looking at the side profile, you can see this has a traditional sedan profile, although the high roof line, the high belt line definitely gives it more of like a cross tour look. However, when you see it in person, it definitely looks sleek, it looks modern. It also is very long. Its overall length is 185.6 inches long. This is about an inch longer versus the Civic Si sedan, and roughly 5 inches longer than a Civic Si versus a Civic hatchback. There is no Si hatchback. Think of this as the Si hatchback. It rides on the same 107.7 inch long wheelbase. All Integras come with these 18-inch wheels. The A-spec model gives you this kind of shark gray 5-spoke, double 5-spoke wheel riding on 235/40 R18 tires. These are Continental Conti Pro contacts. Acura does not offer a summer tire from the factory, and you can see the brakes. These are the same ones off the Si. I would have liked to see Acura offer an upsize brake with a red painted caliper, but I suspect that's something they're going to do eventually for the Type S model. You can see there is an A-spec badge over here, but you can also get that blacked out if you prefer. The mirrors, you can see, have an integrated turn signal. The A-spec also blacks out the window trim. There is a standard sunroof. No panel roof is available on the Integra. And then you can see, looking at the rear profile here, it has a very distinctive look, which again, you're not going to even notice this is a hatchback until you actually open up the area. But looking at the taillights, you can see very reminiscent of the old Hyundai Genesis Coupe, which is not a bad thing. That was a very good looking vehicle. You can see the taillights again have the same kind of chicane design as the headlights. You have full LEDs. Integra is again embossed in the actual bumper right there. And then there's also an A-spec badge. And then the A-spec also includes these nice dual exhaust tips with the chrome tips with the rear integrated parking sensors and the rear diffuser, along with this black spoiler. Now, there is an accessory that gives you like a carbon fiber look spoiler and a more aggressive body kit. You can also get 19-inch wheels. That's going to add several thousands of dollars at the dealership if you want that. And then you can see here, opening up the lift gate, aside from the high liftover height, this is a really practical vehicle. You get around 25 cubic feet of space with the seats up. You can see it's very deep. There's some storage over there to the side. There's also some underfloor storage over here, which is nice. There is no spare, however. You can see there's the Fix-A-Flat or the inflator kit with the Fix-A-Flat kit. And if you fold down those seats, Acura doesn't quote what the number is with the seats folded down, but I suspect it probably doubles the capacity, so you're looking at just under 50 cubic feet, which makes the new Integra a lot easier to live with versus a Civic Si sedan. It has the same practicality, however, as the Civic hatchback, but again, it has about 20 more horsepower versus the standard Civic hatch. So let's go ahead and move on to the interior of this all-new 2023 Integra. The first thing I want to show you guys, however, is the key fob. You can see this is the current generation Acura key. It's slightly different versus the key fob you get in Hondas. It feels really good. I like the silver accent. It also feels heavy, and it just feels really high quality. You can see it has all the usual buttons, including Acura's smart entry. And I believe if you have access to the Acura Link app, you should be able to remotely unlock and lock this vehicle. I don't have access to that because this is a press vehicle. It's not my personal car. Now, touching the door handle, you can see the door handles are illuminated on the back. That's definitely a nice touch that you don't get on the Civic Si. As you open the door, you can see this platinum white exterior is complemented very beautifully with the red leather interior. You can see it's got a two-tone red with the suede Alcantara in the center. It's got some red accents, or I'm sorry, black accents along with the red stitching, which looks nice. The red is continued onto the steering wheel, onto the shifter. You can see the red also continues onto the door panel. You have a 16-speaker ELS Studio 3D sound system, which does sound better than the 12-speaker system in the Bose, the Bose system that you find in the Civic. I also like the aluminum pedals that you get with the A-spec package. The door panel, you can see, has a soft touch injection molded plastic. This trim here feels a little bit cheap. I don't love that, but you can see down here it's hard touch plastic. The window controls up, down for both the front windows. However, the rears are not one touch, but the controls all just feel like they were pulled out of a Civic. But you do get things like 2-person memory seats, and you also get 16-way power adjustable driver's seat, a 4-way power on the passenger side, which is kind of annoying, but at least you get that adjustable lumbar. These seats are heated, but Acura does not offer a ventilated seats, which honestly is an omission that I think that the company needs to hurry up and rectify. Now, getting inside, you can see the step-in is pretty much the same as a Civic. You do have to fall into the vehicle a little bit as I get in and shut the door. It has a nice solid sounding thunk, and then you heard it has a different chime versus the Civic because this is an Acura. It shows the Acura logo there, and if you want to start it up, the button is right here. We'd expect it to be. The clutch needs to be pushed in. It needs to be in neutral. And you can see the full digital display is included as standard on the Integra. You cannot get this on the Civic Si. It is on the Civic Sport Touring, the hatchback, but again, this is a 10.3-inch digital display and a 9-inch touchscreen over here, the Acura Link touchscreen. However, this is the same infotainment system as the Honda Civic. Now, if you guys have sat in other Acura products, it uses their TTI, True Touchpad Interface, where it's not a touchscreen, but you have a 10.25-inch display. This, as you can see, is different. but it is nice how it's mounted high in the dash. It's easy to touch. It's got hard buttons and a volume knob over here. And you can see my phone came up pretty quickly. It's got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. And it looks fairly nice. However, it would have been nice to see Acura increase the size of this screen for the Integra, but again, they were working on a budget here to keep the car's price low. Now, the a-spec model also includes, the tech package also includes that heads-up display, which is nice. You have a soft touch injection molded plastic on the upper portion of the dash. The dash design compared to the Civic is similar, but it's also different. You can see the dash vents have that kind of metallic look here with this kind of like great design to the dash. However, unlike on the Civic where it extends across the entire dash, there's this silver piece here that tries to look like aluminum. It actually feels cheap. I kind of prefer the look of the Civic a little bit more. This right here, however, is padded. It almost feels like it's covered in a leatherette material, although it would have been nice to see some actual stitching on here as opposed to no stitching at all. The door panel, surprisingly, there is an LED light over here that kind of accentuates here. It's colored red at night, which makes it look a little bit more upscale. Again, it's only on the front doors, unlike the back doors. There isn't any interchangeable ambient light, but Acura did make it a little bit nicer. Unlike the Civic Si, you also have a wireless phone charging pad over here. You have the same high quality feel to the climate controls where it has 2 knobs for the dual zone. You can see there's a 3-level heated seats. It is lacking a heated steering wheel, however, which you can add. The dealer will add that for $500. It'll give you a button over here in the center. You have controls for your audio controls. You can slightly customize this display here where you can put some different information if you'd like CarPlay, Bluetooth, USB, or XM satellite radio, and you can also change the way this looks over here. Not super customizable, but it's nice that they at least give you the option. The automatic will include paddle shifters. The wheel has a manual tilt and telescoping feature with a lot of a range of adjustability. The horn sounds a lot better than the Civic Si, so that's another reason why you should get the Acura. It has a much meatier sounding horn. Over here you can see there's a drive mode selector with a few extra drive modes. There's an individual drive mode, which allows you to custom tailor the adaptive dampers, which are standard on the A-spec tech model. It's not available on the base Integra. And then there's also 3 other drive modes: Comfort, Normal, and Sport, which adjusts the steering, it adjusts the powertrain, and it also adjusts the suspension. In the Si, it doesn't adjust the suspension because you don't have the adaptive dampers. There's an auto start stop defeat button, an electronic parking brake, and then here's the lovely 6-speed manual, which you can see has really great throws. It feels like it's pulled right out of the Si. I do prefer the shift knob versus the one in the Si. Put it into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera that has rear cross traffic alert, it has blind spot monitoring, it has Acura Watch as standard, it has 3 different views. Acura does not offer a 360 camera, which kind of is annoying, but you don't really need it in a vehicle like this, I'd argue. And then you can see here, the adaptive cruise control in this car also works with the manual, but I don't believe it'll come to a full stop. Acura's system is perfectly fine. It's nothing super special, however, like some you might find in some competitors. Over here you can see there's a big area for your cup holders, a nice padded center console, and it's a relatively small but deep center console storage area. I like the leather over here. I also think the seats are comfortable and supportive. Really wish they were cooled. I also don't like how the passenger seat is only a 4-way. Looking at the glove box, you can see it is damped but not lined with felt. It's pretty big also as well. And then over here you can see you have LED map lighting, and then you have a standard just regular sunroof which lets in some light. It opens up as well, but I do wish that Acura would offer a pano roof. But overall the interior feels basically like a Civic, but it also is a great place to start. It's got some upgrades in terms of the materials. The steering wheel, however, is the same, but it has the same high quality leather. It has the same great infotainment system, but I think by Acura upgrading the seats and just making the touch points a little bit nicer, they could have also elevated it a little bit more, but at least they gave us some tech that you expect in a vehicle that wears a premium badge. Checking out the back seat of the new Integra, because it's based on the Civic, it does have one of the more spacious back seats in this subcompact premium sedan class. You can see Acura says there's around 37 inches of legroom, and I also like how the red interior carries over along with the two-tone. Sadly, this is a hard touch injection molded plastic, and there's no LED light, ambient lighting on the door panels here in the rear. Now, getting inside back here, you can see at 5'7", I can get comfortable pretty well. I did actually smack my head on this, so that sloping roof does cut into the headroom a little bit. But 37.5 inches of legroom is plentiful. There is a hump over here for the middle passengers. You do have 2 USB-A charging ports, no rear seat air vents, which is a frustrating omission, along with no heated rear seats. Would have liked to see that. You only have 1 storage pocket over here, and then you can see the headrests on the rear seat are fixed, and then there is a armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. So fitting 3 across would be tight. 2, however, you can do relatively easily. Really, where Acura just misses the mark is just another storage pocket, rear AC vents, and heated back seats. That would make this back seat among the best in the segment. So about 3 months ago, we were driving the brand new Acura Integra out in Texas. I was really impressed with that car on my first drive. I mean, if you guys like the current Civic Si, you're gonna basically like this car. So I was very excited to get behind the wheel of the Integra again, this time for a full week back in my home area. As you can see, I've also kicked out my videographer and editor Rob, so we're saving some weight here, even though Rob really doesn't weigh that much. So we're gonna retest what we can do 0 to 60 wise in this vehicle, which I think the best I got was 7.4 seconds. Rob got 7.1 with his more aggressive shifting. But we're gonna go ahead and see what we can get here. Now, this is the 6-speed manual model. It's the one that enthusiasts are going to want to prefer because it also includes the limited slip diff. Sadly, Acura does not offer this vehicle with the summer performance tires that you can get on the Civic Si. But let's go ahead and see on our usual stretch what we can get here. I'll just do a light clutch dump at 2,000. .22 seconds there. That's just by myself. We're on a pretty relatively level surface. And remember, the Integra is not really, this powertrain is not about straight line acceleration. I actually did that same stretch of road in the Civic Si with high performance tires, and I got 7.01 seconds, so 7 seconds. This is a smidge slower, which doesn't surprise me because the new Integra is about 100 pounds heavier than the Si. It doesn't have those sticky or summer tires, but at least it has the limited slip diff. But man, these Continental Conti Pro contacts really lack contact. They're all season tires and they don't grip all that well. So that's something to keep in mind if you guys actually, want to drive this vehicle aggressively. You're going to want to go ahead and swap out those tires. Sadly, Acura doesn't offer those sticky summer tires on this vehicle from the factory, but that's kind of an easy change. Now, just driving the Integra normally, it really gives you hints of the fact that it's built on the Si platform, but you know what? After driving the Si in this car back-to-back and living with both cars in my home area, the Integra definitely feels a lot softer than the Si, and that's kind of what you want in a vehicle that's supposed to be more of a grown-up version of the Si. The steering still feels relatively quick and precise. There's good feedback. The chassis feels like it can handle a lot. It feels really sturdy and really stiff, but not overly stiff. I like the adaptive dampers on this car. I have it in sport mode right now. But there's something about the Si that had like a certain eagerness to it, a playfulness. You get a sense that it's there in the Integra, but it also feels like if you're hustling this vehicle really aggressively, it almost feels like it's saying, why are you driving so aggressively? You should just kind of relax. You should listen to the ELS sound system. You should put the vehicle back into its comfort setting and just enjoy the drive. And that's the one thing about this shifter. It has active rev matching that you can turn on and off, and it feels exactly like the Si shifter, although I much prefer the shift knob in this car. It just reminds me of my 2013 ILX, which again, this car very much reminds me of that. It just has a turbo engine this time, which offers more torque, much better mid-range grunt, and it's honestly a really nice daily driver. That's the beauty about the Integra's chassis. Just like the Si, it's a lovely daily driver. It'll chirp into second pretty easily. I just wish it didn't require a shift into third to get to 60. That is what's slowing down the acceleration. So ignore the numbers for a second, because in the real world, in terms of daily driving, this feels plenty powerful and it feels plenty quick. It's just the fact that it requires that shift to third. That's the reason why it feels a little bit sluggish. Slight chirp again into second. Requires that shift to third to get to 60, 7.53 seconds there. So a little bit slower there. I didn't quite dump the clutch like I did in my first run, but we'll take the 7.2. That's not bad. I got pretty close to what Rob got, and he was going more downhill when we were out in Texas when we got that quick acceleration time, the quickest. But you know what? That's not bad considering Motor Trend has tested this car at like 7.7 seconds. That's funny. That is funny. But because of that limited slip diff, it's able to send the power to the inside wheel that has more grip. But if it just had some sticky summer tires, it wouldn't be slipping so much. So honestly, that's an easy change. I imagine a lot of owners are going to do that relatively quickly. Now, in terms of the ride quality here, I still have it in sport mode, and you can see the steering is nice and sharp. The suspension stays nice and flat. The ride is also quite agreeable in sport, but what I can do is I can put it into the individual setting. This is something that you can't get in the SI because they remove the adaptive dampers. Now I have the engine and the transmission in sport, or the engine and the steering in sport, but the dampers are in comfort. And you notice that the ride quality definitely gets a little bit softer. Now, driving the two cars back to back, the SI and this, you definitely notice the SI has a firmer ride, but it wasn't overly too firm for me. This just feels more luxury car appropriate. The engine's Redline comes up at around 6,500 RPM. If you hit that limiter, it really cuts the power. It lets you know you're not supposed to rev it past the Redline. And you know, what the beauty about this turbo engine is it has a great deal of mid-range grunt. I just wish it sounded a little bit better. It also has a little bit of rev hang still, which I'm not terribly in love with, but the shifter is so good, the clutch is so easy, the steering feels good, the seats also are comfortable and supportive. They're heated, which you can't get on the SI, and if you want, you can also add in a heated steering wheel, which my Tester does not have. It's a $500 upcharge from the dealership if you want that. And I also like the heads-up display in this vehicle, and you have all the driver assistance tech in this car. So even though, you know, the Integra, it's pretty easy to poke fun at this car and make it seem like, oh, it's just a guzzied up Civic. Well, guess what? That's what the Integra has always been. The difference is the new Civic is a really, really great place to start. And Acura basically took the good bones of that car and added some, you know, upscale touches. I mean, I like the seats. They're more comfortable. The interior feels a little bit quieter. The increase in tech in this car is good. I like the ELS sound system. Putting my foot down here, it still feels plenty quick, even though the 0 to 60 number is disappointing. And you know what? In terms of fuel economy, I've been driving this car all week. In the 215 miles that I've put on it, it's been averaging almost 32 mpg. 32 mpg in something like this? I mean, on the highway, I easily got it up to 39. That was in mixed driving. So excellent gas mileage, and that's to show you that the 1.5 is a really efficient powertrain. And that's one of the reasons why it's just so good, even though, you know, it could be, you know, boosted up with more boost, and you could easily tune this engine with a Honda tune. It's going to get really great gas mileage, and it's also going to be a really easy car to daily drive. So overall, I'm really impressed with the overall package of the Integra. I think it's quick enough, but it just gets me super excited for a Type S model. I'm not sure if this chassis is ever going to get all-wheel drive. I don't think it's built for all-wheel drive, but I am very much looking forward to what Acura does for Chapter 2 for this Integra comeback. Now, after spending a full week with the all-new 2023 Acura Integra, as an enthusiast, it's pretty easy to dismiss this car as just simply a guzzied up version of the Honda Civic Si that's not really worthy of the extra upcharge that Acura charges. However, if you actually open up your mind and spend a week with this vehicle, or just take it for a quick test drive, the new Integra really has some great bones to start with, because the current 11th generation Civic is a fabulous vehicle, especially if you guys are looking at the SI. It's a great deal at around $28,000 for the SI with a manual transmission. However, for somebody like me who's in my 30s, I prefer something that's a little bit more upscale, it's a little bit more comfortable. This is exactly what the vehicle is targeting, is somebody who wants an SI but wants a more premium environment and easier vehicle to live with. It's got that hatchback versatility, it's got a way nicer interior in terms of the seat comfort, in terms of the color combination. The tech in the car is perfectly fine. The 9-inch touchscreen has wireless CarPlay, which works well. I like the heads-up display. I also like the all-digital dash. However, the Integra does miss the mark for me in terms of some of the tech features. I would like to see cooled seats. A heated steering wheel should be included as standard and not be a dealer upcharge. And then the rear should have heated seats in the back and rear seat air vents. Those are some gripes about the Integra, along with a pano sunroof, that I wish Acura would have thrown in. Should Acura have also thrown in super handling all-wheel drive? Absolutely, I would have liked to see that. But remember, this Civic platform wasn't designed to accommodate all-wheel drive, so it would have significantly increased the price tag of the Integra. So Acura obviously was working on a budget in order to create this vehicle, and they were able to pass along those savings to the consumer. Because even though this model here doesn't feel quite as sporty as the SI, it's pretty much there. It's like 9/10 of the way there. You do get all of that tech and luxury and just a better designed vehicle with more practicality for not that much more money versus a Civic Si. This car starts at $30,800 for the base Integra with the CVT. Add $2,000 if you guys want the a-spec package, which is basically a sport appearance package, for $32,800. If you guys want the tech package, it's another $3,000 on top. It also bundles in the a-spec package, so you're looking at $35,800. The manual in this model is a no-charge option, so you could basically spend $35,800 plus plus destination for either the manual or the automatic. Highly recommend the stick for those of you who want a really fun daily driver that's also fuel efficient. Add in destination and the $500 for the paint. This car here is around $37,400. Now that makes the new Integra about $8,400 more expensive versus a Civic Si sedan. That's with the all-season tires. Is it worth that extra charge? I would argue yes, because if you wanted to compare this car to a Volkswagen GLI or a GTI, they are about the same price. Now the VW cousins do have more horsepower and torque, but I would argue that the Integra feels just as fun to drive. And even though it's not quite as fast in terms of the numbers, you have to remember that numbers aren't quite everything. And if you're also comparing this to like a Civic hatchback with a manual, the Civic hatch is about $6,000 cheaper, but you do give up 20 horsepower, you do give up that limited slip differential, and you also don't get all of the tech features and luxury that this car has, along with some of the interior color combinations and the fact that it is a hatchback, which makes it, again, a far more practical vehicle. But with all that said, I do think the new Integra is worthy of that coveted nameplate, and it also gets me super excited for Chapter 2 and possibly Chapter 3, whenever Acura decides to give us a Type S version. I am very excited to see what is coming next for this new generation of Integra. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2023 Acura Integra. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.